So one thing we talk about all the time here on the channel rings true once again, and that's that Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners get and remain active in the transfer portal. And today, we not only need to talk about the newest new additions that Oklahoma pulled from the portal, but we also need to talk about Bill Bedenbaugh attempting to rebuild this OU offensive line utilizing the transfer portal, and we have got to dive into it all. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you excited by the additions of both Woolard and Michael Tarkin? Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below, as those interactions seem small. They are massive to content creators such as myself. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And where do we begin? Well, I'm sure if you've been around the channel long enough, you probably know which side of the ball I'm going to start with. When I sit down and begin watching a football game, there's one side of the ball that I enjoy watching just a tad more than the other, and that's defense. I love high-level defensive play, and luckily for Oklahoma, you just pulled a very productive defensive player out the transfer portal, Kaden Ward, who comes to you by way of Miami of Ohio. And I understand there will inevitably be conversations whenever you get a player like Kaden Ward who doesn't come from a Power 5 conference, that this guy is going to face a massive jump up in competition, and that much is true. He will face an increased level of competition, there's no doubt about that. But at the flip side, a football player is a football player, and this young man is a football player. He was very impressive for Miami of Ohio, notching 9.5 sacks, 12 tackles for loss, and a whole bunch of tackles in general. This is the type of guy that, yes, he will experience a jump in competition. There's no argument from me. But is he equipped to handle that? And I think that the answer to that question is also yes, which I find to be the far more important question, because it's inevitable. It goes without saying that competing against teams in the SEC is going to be a step up from competing against the teams that Miami of Ohio competed against. But the more important question, is he equipped to make that jump? I find that answer to be yes, and also we also need to understand that he's going to be being coached by Miguel Chavez and Todd Bates, who handle that defensive front for Oklahoma, and they have done a fantastic job. I think this is a big-time addition for Oklahoma because of the productivity he has, because of the experience he has, but also the timing. Oklahoma was pushing for Nick Scourton, who ended up committing to Texas A&M. Well, when that happened, OU didn't fret, OU didn't wait long, OU didn't sit on their hands. They kept active, which underscores the point I have been trying to make about Brent Venables and this Oklahoma staff for so long. They're not going to sit on their hands and wait for opportunities to come to them. They are going to run head first through any adversity that they have and see what happens on the other side. And personally, I have a lot of respect for that. I have a lot of love for the way they've handled business at Oklahoma under Brent Venables. Of all the chaos they've experienced, one constant has remained: pushing forward. That's what we've seen from this staff, and that's exactly what we see here with a big win on the defensive side of the ball, which will add in more depth to that edge group, which should be fun to watch for Oklahoma as they try and increase the sack numbers and how often they're able to affect the quarterback. Remember, it's not just sacks. Sacks are a great stat, but if you're able to get the quarterback uncomfortable with the pass rush, even if you don't get him down, you can massively throw off a play and create an analogous result. So, big addition for Oklahoma. Let's flip to the other side of the ball, where we have a longer conversation to have along the offensive line, because Oklahoma has gotten multiple additions from the transfer portal to add in depth to this offensive line. This weekend, they pull the latest, Michael Tarkin, who finds his way to Oklahoma via USC, where he found his way to USC from Florida. This is a guy that was a top 300 prospect coming out of high school, 6'5", over 300 pounds. He has the build you want, but more importantly, when you listen to coaches, one of the things that has stood out is how highly coaches talk about Michael Tarkin, and there is something to be said about that. But whenever we're looking at Oklahoma, Oklahoma's in a bit of a precarious position, because I have long held the position that it is increasingly difficult to build an offensive line via the transfer portal. And one of the big reasons why is because of the time it takes to gel as a unit. Yes, individually playing offensive line is very difficult. Now you have new assignments with a new team with new terminology, but that's to be expected when you transfer. gelling as a unit takes time for the offensive line. And getting guys during different time periods of the transfer portal, in my opinion, makes it difficult to do so. Now, you're hoping that you're able to get all your offensive line moves done in the first portal window. That way you're not trying to remain building an offensive line during that May transfer portal window when those guys aren't going to have any type of relationship on the field with the offensive line until August. You're putting yourself behind the 8 ball then. Hopefully you can get it done. That way your offensive line is there to gel during spring ball, which looks to see what Oklahoma is doing. But this is interesting to watch because OU has a big-time name there visiting along the offensive line. Former 5-star Lance Hurd, who's coming there via way of LSU, where he just recently entered the transfer portal. Look, there's no questioning Bill Bedenbaugh. And even though I have my questions about how easy it is to rebuild an offensive line via the transfer portal, there's a handful of offensive line coaches out there that are going to get the benefit of the doubt from me. Bill Bedenbaugh is absolutely one of them. If he identifies guys and says, this is the dude I want on my offensive line, far be it from me to question him. Even though I have held that belief, you have a track record that I can't argue with, and you obviously are incredible at your job. So if you believe that's the move, you gotta put faith in Bill Bedenbaugh that that's the move. More often than not, he gets this offensive line right. And so I'm interested to see the moves that continue happening. You get a big-time win in Michael Tarkin, but now you also have a big-time visitor in Lance Hurd there, former 5-star. I don't think Oklahoma is done adding pieces to the offensive line. I think Oklahoma wants to create an environment where it's competition, iron sharpens iron, and it's going to be really fun and interesting to see how they're able to piece it together. But one thing is for certain, with Bill Bedenbaugh at the helm, you gotta put faith in him because he's earned that faith. Can't wait to hear from all of you. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.